Here we go.
All right, I have been waiting for this presentation for months, and honestly, I'm glad it took so long because I hope it was long enough for you to have like enough information.
Yeah, so this has been roughly a year in the making.
Has it been that long?
Pretty much, yeah. I started this way back when it first happened. I kind of put it away for a good bit while we were getting Star Academy worked out, but I did bring it. I did resurrect it and finish it off.
Sweet.
So yeah, here we go. How Not to Do Engineering by me. All right, let's go. So this, I'm sure you may remember, roughly a year ago, there was a incident in the North Atlantic Ocean with a company called Oceangate. The Oceangate incident.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the CEO of Oceangate, named Stockton Rush, definitely not a 1880s American West villain name, decided that he wanted to go visit the Titanic with a bunch of paying tourists. So he made his company, he made a sub, and well, it didn't exactly go very well. This disclaimer is legitimate. I don't want to celebrate death. It's not good that they died. This image also applies, however.
They were fucking warned on multiple occasions.
So the big thing is the 4 passengers, they weren't engineers, they were just people who had a lot of money who wanted to see the Titanic. Not bad on its own. The real problem is Mr. Rush. I will give him this, he did go on a submarine. He believed his own nonsense. There's something to be had for that. Not much, but, you know, take from that what you will. The more I researched, the more I came to this conclusion. And I'm convinced by the end of this presentation, you will agree with me on this.
Mm-hmm.
You should never say bad things about the dead. You should only say good. Stockton Rush is dead. Good.
This is gonna be
I was gonna say.
I'll make an unfounded claim. How could this man, this titan of industry here, do something so bad?
I respect a man who believes in what he practices. Okay.
Yeah. Throughout all of this, you have to realize he does like all the things I'm going to say. He's also an engineer. He knew all this, and he still decided to go on the submarine. For what it's worth, he at least did that. That's at least worth something. But again, this statement applies. So, now, this is an engineering topic, so there will be some technical info. Not too much, I promise. And I'll try to keep it simple when it does come up. So, just how did Oceangate end up killing 5 people? Well, they tended to take engineering safety principles, designer warnings, and so I'll ignore that. I'll ignore that. There are many such cases. So now we start to get into the actual meat of it. What was the sub made of?
If you're about to tell me he bought the Oceangate submarine from Subway.
Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
Well, he decided to make his sub out of something called unidirectional carbon fiber. And that's pretty much just hair-thin strands of carbon fiber that are covered in glue, and they're all facing the same way.
But
Normal carbon fiber.
Tim, I hear about how carbon fiber is the coolest, strongest material of all time.
Well, it features prominently. Let's say that. Normal carbon fiber goes, say, left and right and up and down. That means that whether you stretch it left and right or up and down is strong both ways. Unidirectional has all the fibers in the same direction. That means it's very strong one way and not so good the other way. Now, warning, there is some nerd shit incoming for a minute. Bear with me.
Alright. Do I have an alarm sound effect?
So, the round bit was made up of 480 layers of carbon fiber. Half of them were facing up and down, and half of them were rolled in a circle. Why they didn't just use regular carbon fiber and make 240 regular layers, I don't know. That seems like a bad idea. And if you know carbon fiber, they used half pre-prig and half wet wound. Which makes no sense. Why would they use half and half? Because you get the disadvantages of both, and almost none of the benefits.
Krusty has a question. His hand is raised.
I do have a question. Would it be potentially more expensive to do it the other way? And I don't know. I was just wondering. If that
Yeah,
was-
does doing it half one and half the other save money?
No, it makes it more expensive. Because the whole point. So here's we're gonna have a little bit of distinction quickly. Pre-preg carbon fiber is carbon fiber that already has the glue put on it. It's just frozen so it doesn't cure before you're done with it. Wet wind is where you put down the sheet and then put down glue on top of it. So what they did was they put down a pre-preg sheet that already had the glue, put more glue on top of it, put down the wet wound sheet, put glue on top of that, and then put another pre-preg sheet on top of that. Repeat 240 times. Why? Why not just pick one?
Well, that's how you have the most structurally sound lasagna, is you have one layer of lasagna noodles and one layer of steel rods and then one layer of lasagna noodles. That way your lasagna's the best.
But I'm not sending my lasagna down to like a pressurized part of the ocean.
Stockton Rush was.
If there's faults on
For
all
your-
sides,
even for
it
your
evens out.
lasagna analogy, it's like I'm gonna put down some lasagna sheets, then some tomato sauce.
What was
Then I'm gonna put
Garfield
down
on the
a
trip?
pre-made lasagna on top of that one, and then put down more
God.
noodles on top of that.
Tyler,
If
did
you
you
want the pre-made lasagna, just get the pre-made lasagna.
Tyler, did you
Bullets
just
don't work, John.
Did you just say if there's faults on every side, then it evens out?
Yeah.
That's
You know, sometimes
engineering.
engineering's
But I
more
mean-
of an art than a science, you know?
Whatever. You can all see the problem with this. So yeah. Now, it's not actually that big either. The whole sub could fit 5 people. It is really cramped on the inside. I probably wouldn't fit on the inside. I'll be honest. But what you need to know, it's basically a cylinder with hemispheres on either end to finish off the hull. The main cylinder bit in the middle here is all that black is all carbon fiber, and these 2 bits on the end are titanium. Yeah. If this is you, don't worry. That's it for now. There'll be more later, but we're good for now.
I do. Can you go back to that picture? I just want
Yes.
to point out that my limited understanding of engineering, I've only really like researched materials because I am a big nerd. That the viewport being made of plexi, like almost a foot thick piece of plexiglass, was the one piece of the vessel that was that material is what is the most like compression resistant material of the entire submarine.
So
I
if you
could-
go solely off of the compression modulus, that is correct. But the titanium, the way it's built, makes it much stiffer, much more resistant to compression.
I got a question. That empty part in the back, was there
That
stuff
is not pressurized. That is
That
a
is not
open hull
pressurized.
for electronics. So all
Oh.
of this white thing, none of that matters. That is
Oh,
all supposed to be like
no.
that.
No. That's
Oh.
fine. That's fine. That part is fine. That's not. There's
That's
no.
normal.
There's no
That's
air
supposed to
cavity
be
in
like
there.
that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But, it's not. But it's not pressurized.
No, but there's nothing in it.
So this whole thing is not pressurized. It's all the same pressure. That means there's no difference.
Oh,
There's nothing pushing
okay.
on it.
All right. Okay.
And then so the viewport actually is interesting. It's 7 inches thick, which is by far the thickest of anywhere on the sub. And it's pretty kind of interesting. Here he did actually kind of have a point with the safety thing. So it's acrylic. Acrylic fails visually roughly 3 times sooner than it'll fail mechanically. Meaning that if you look at it, if it goes all blurry and fuzzy, that means you're at 1/3 of its failure point.
But
So
Tim,
he made it so that it would fail visually if you got too deep, but not mechanically.
so
Shame they didn't apply it to the rest of the sub.
I was
but,
gonna
you
say.
know.
So at
small
what point
wins.
how soon does carbon fiber fail visually? How much longer do you have before it
Well,
fails mechanically?
that becomes a major point later on in the thing. Funnily enough. Now, if this is you, don't worry. All you need to know is we're really under pressure, pushing down on me. The Titanic is 12,500 feet down. At that point, there is 5,000 psi of pressure. That is a lot. That is 5,000 pounds per square inch. The Titanic has a total surface area of 20,300 square inches, which means the total force pushing in on that submarine is 104 million pounds. 51,000 tons.
That's not that much. Surely the submarine would be fine, right?
Yeah.
Well,
if you want to know just how much 104 million pounds is, we're going to have to bring out an old friend. How much is 51,000 tons? It's the USS Yorktown.
Hell yes!
The USS Yorktown, fully loaded with planes, fuel, guns, everything, weighs 26,000 tons. That
And can
is,
surprise the Japanese.
that is half the weight of the water on the submarine.
Wow.
God damn.
Obviously, that's not big enough. You're going to need a bigger boat. So, welcome the USS Missouri, the last battleship the US ever built. It weighed 57,000 tons at maximum. A bit more than the weight of the water, but as you can see, it's quite big. Matter of fact, that group there is 20 people.
Wow.
And
You
those
could kill
guns you
5
see
of
on
them
it-
with one Titan submarine.
Exactly, yeah. Now we're getting somewhere. That little gun barrel there, the opening at the very end is 16 inches. It's so small, it's 1 pixel.
Yeah.
It's a big boat. This entire thing, the weight of everything you see on it, weighs the same as the water pushing in on that submarine.
I like this chatter default soup that says, how many ants is 51,000 tons?
And, wow, that sure was a lot of pressure, Mr. Rush. Surely you're going to prioritize safety on this highly dangerous mission, right?
Thank you.
No. So, now we get to where he's sort of messed up. He said he would use a innovative acoustic listening system to detect when damage on the hull is occurring and to abort before it causes the hull to fail. That's not a very good idea, and you'll get to see why just now. The acoustic system relies on strain sensors to make the sound of the hull failing. So in order to know the hull is failing, it has to fail. There's no pre-warning on his thing. But he says that there would be enough warning to stop and immediately return to the surface, because to his credit, in this case, in a sub, when you want to stop adding force, you just go up. Less water means less force, less likely to break. Obviously worked as intended. This is pick unrelated.
Wait, so the monitoring system was just like, yep, they're dead, all right.
Yeah, pretty much. So, this is our second nerd shit incoming. This one is a game of spot the difference. There are going to be 2 graphs on the scene. See if you can find the difference. This is graph number 1. You can see a nice, long, straight line, bit of a bump there. You get your nicely named ultimate strength, and then at the end you fracture. This is graph number 2. What do you see here?
There's no curve. It doesn't have a. It just dies. It just
Yes.
goes poop.
Yes. So these are called stress strain curves, and they are how materials react to being put under force. The one on the top over here is steel, and the one on the bottom is carbon fiber. The steel curve shows this little line here is called the elastic zone. Any damage you do here is reversible. When you take the load off, it'll go back to normal. Excuse me. After this yield strength here, any damage is permanent. That's not good. And when it eventually breaks, they mark it with a red X. Now, your sub, if you design it, should be within this straight line and must be before the ultimate strength. Because if you pass the ultimate strength, you will suffer a failure. But because it's so wide, you have a lot of warning. And the strain, of course, shows how much it extends. So you see it extending, you say, oh crap, I gotta go back. So you go back and you don't have an implosion.
So this is
Carbon fiber,
that's
meanwhile-
so steel is the kind of material that you would be able to resurface if you started noticing failure.
Yeah.
Because you could just
especially at this point, steel also makes a lot of noise when it stretches. It'll start groaning and groaning, and you'll say, that's not good. And this whole section here is good for warning, because you know it's coming. For carbon fiber, it's not quite that easy. This whole straight line here is stuff you expect. And then once you get to starts curve, it curves, and look at that, you're done.
Hey, what was that noise?
Exactly. The elastic region ends abruptly, and it causes permanent damage with no warning. And to make things even worse, that ultimate strength that we mentioned earlier, where this is like your point of no return, is the same as your failure point.
Because it's so rigid.
Yeah, because carbon fiber is a brittle material like glass.
So
if you stretch glass, you don't have a warning. It just snaps.
So essentially, this is a jump scare.
Yeah, pretty much. Freddy Fazbear is carbon fiber snapping.
Listen, all
Freddy
I'm
Fracture.
hearing is... Oh,
Freddy
sorry, go on.
Fracture.
No, I just said Freddy Fracture.
Yeah, exactly.
The Freddy fracture.
All I'm hearing is that with his brand new acoustic technology, he probably could have been fine if he had a better sound system.
It's actually not even, because this whole straight line, there would be no sound. You would only get sound when you start getting the curve.
Did he
Well,
know
the
that? You
problem
said
is
he's an
on a
engineer.
real
Did he
graph-
know this?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I did the maths for default soup. It's roughly around 51 billion ants.
That's a lot of ants.
Thank you.
That is a lot of ants. But yeah, the gap between the straight line ending and the fracture point is so small, by the when the sound system detects failure, it's too late. Because we get into this later on, you start getting cascading failure, where after one strand breaks, the rest have more force. So more break, which means there's more force on the rest of them, and eventually you're just dead. There's nothing you can do about it. Don't use carbon fiber in pressure holes, especially not ones in compression. Just don't.
Tommy Maxey says his ears was his acoustic device.
True.
Yeah. This is them compared to each other. This is the problem with brittle materials. This is just a straight line and you're dead. There's no warning. There's no chance to stop. Steel, meanwhile, you have this and you say, oh, that's not good. That's not good. I should probably go back now. There is no warning of failure. Concrete is actually a pretty good example of this. Unreinforced concrete is brittle fracture. It'll just snap with pretty much no bending, like you can see here. And it fails catastrophically, which means nothing, everything. Everything collapses all at the same time. There's no warning. Whereas here, if you put rebar in it, if you saw this at a parking garage, would you go in the parking garage?
No?
Exactly.
No.
That's the point.
Oh,
It
there's still a
provides you
parking
with-
garage to avoid.
Yeah, exactly. The roof is still being held up, but I don't want to go in there. Because it gives you warning.
I don't know. Those iron pillars look really convincing.
Holding on for dear life.
Yeah. This is called safety. It's really important.
What's that? Never heard that term before.
I'll ignore that.
Me, a
The
billionaire.
fact that these concrete pillars have been crushed, but the roof is still standing. If you saw this, you would say, I gotta get out of here. And then you would, and you'd be fine. Whereas over here, you wouldn't have the chance. If
Aren't-
this beam held up a building, by the time it cracked, the roof would have fallen on your head, and you'd be dead.
Aren't most safety standards built up to like double what they're supposed to be rated for?
Yeah, exactly. That's the point, is it gives you safety. So even if like a tree falls on your roof, it's not going to collapse.
So how many thousands of pounds of pressure was the Titan built for?
So the Titan was actually built with a 2.2 safety factor in mind. It was just built so badly that safety factor got wiped out.
It was hurt in its own confusion.
Yeah. Carbon fiber is like glass. It just fails. There's no warning. It just is there and then it's gone. I don't really know how else to describe it. It's there and it's broken. There's no warning. There's no escape. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, if anyone wants to try this at home,
No jokes. No jokes. This is just unacceptable.
if anyone wants to try this at home, take a piece of glass in your hands and bend it.
Don't do that. You will hurt yourself.
Tell me if
no
it bends.
gloves, ideally.
I mean, they say this about like supercars that are built with carbon fiber chassis. Like if they crash, they just shatter.
Oh yeah, it's just eviscerated.
Yeah.
Carbon fiber does not bend. It's a brittle material. Its whole point is that's really stiff. That's what it was designed to be. But that means there is no warning. You must keep it within its safe operating range, or you will have no warning and you will just fail. I've said just fail many times, but it is unfortunately what happens. Now, Rush had a pretty interesting safety attitude. So I've collected a series of quotes, some that I made up and some that are real. I'm gonna put them on screen, and we'll have you and the audience guess which one is real and which one is fake.
All right, everyone, get your phones out. Get in the quiplash.
It's almost like he rushed the safety parameters.
All right, round 1. At some point, safety is just pure waste. Or, I can do this just as safely by breaking the rules. Which one is real and which one is fake?
I think breaking the rules is the real one. I think the waste one is you made it up.
You know what? I'm going to say the first one is the real quote. Dak78 also says that.
I'm going to say the first one as well.
I think I heard him say the first one in an interview.
Okay. Everybody has their guesses in?
Locked in.
Right. We're going to go to round 2 now. We're going to have the results at the end. All right. All that can happen is something on the outside can get hurt. We are not getting hurt. We are the safest 5 people on the planet. Or, we have heard the baseless cries of "you're going to kill someone" way too often. I take this as a serious personal insult.
You know, and I think both of these are real.
I think 2 is real. 1 is like too specific because I think if I remember the story correctly, they didn't know exactly how many people were going on it until like same day, right? Because they wouldn't have done an interview before. So I think 2 is the real one.
I'm gonna go with the first one actually. I feel like this guy would have said something like
Both. Me and Default Soup are on the same wavelength. Both.
I'm gonna call it now. I'm gonna say all of these are true, but I'm gonna say 2.
Oh no.
Okay. Round 3. I'd like to be remembered as an innovator. There's 4 rounds. There's one more after this. I think it was General MacArthur who said, "You are remembered for the rules you break." Carbon fiber and titanium? There's a rule you don't do that. Well, I did.
I think
all sound like something he would say.
I think one is real. One is real. They're probably all real, but I think one is more real than the second.
Who here watched Glass Onion?
Haven't seen it.
No.
yet.
Nobody?
Yeah.
There's an ongoing joke that the main antagonist is this tech bro billionaire whose like running line is "I want to be remembered in the same sentence as the Mona Lisa," which is such a dumb nothing statement, but I feel like this man would have said exactly that.
Which is funny considering no one knows who the Mona Lisa really was.
Right.
All right. And we're going to go on to the last round. I know that our engineering is focused, innovative, an approach. It flies in the face of orthodoxy, but that's the nature of innovation. Or, I'm tired of industry players who try to use safety as an excuse to stop innovation.
The first one sounds like an Elon Musk quote.
I think one is real, but I can see him saying both. You're gonna do this thing where the next slide's gonna be like, "They're all real. They're all real."
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
Or they're all fake, and we just believe that this man is completely incompetent.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on you. You did sniff it out. They're all real.
Can we go back genuinely? Can we go back to like round 1, 2?
Yeah.
I want to see them all in order.
Now in that context, now know
my
that they're all real.
God.
I had a suspicion with the first question, but then the second question sealed it for me.
At some point, safety is just pure waste.
What the fuck? People trusted this man with their lives. Did no one know how like submarines work?
Okay, I don't know the full story. I only remember like the coverage when they were saying they were like running out of oxygen was the scariest thing. Like people paid to go on this voyage, correct?
Yeah, they paid
Lots
$100
of
million.
money.
Oh my god.
What a meal!
Yeah, $250,000 US.
Well, like, wasn't there also like, I don't know about commercial, but there was other options to visit the Titanic, but this happened to be the cheapest way to do it.
Yeah.
What they sold it was they actually had a window on it. Most subs just have
Cameras.
a camera.
Yeah.
So you could actually look out and see the Titanic with your own eyes or whatever instead of through a camera.
Damn.
But I can look at it with like on a camera from my fucking house.
I mean, I can watch it on VHS. Like, I'm not paying $250,000 to.
They made a
die.
movie about this boat. I could have just watched.
That's the sequel to the Titan. It's an exact replica, except you tell people you're going down to see the Titanic, and then they just put a projector of the Titanic movie on screen for 2.5 hours.
You know what? It could have been cheaper to like make the submarine than put it in a studio studio, like once people get inside,
And then like pretend.
yeah, they could have just done that.
I think it's the saddest quote is definitely round 2, number 2. Like we have heard your baseless sights of you're gonna kill someone. Way too
I take
often.
that as a serious personal insult. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This new context is certainly
It
changing
might
it up
be-
for me.
I might be wrong on this, but I'm having like a memory because I was one of those kids that was just like really into the Titanic. When
He was.
younger.
I can confirm this.
Wasn't there a expedition? It was like one of the first ones that went down where it was a father and son, and like the son was a Boy Scout. Now tell me, millionaires, are you gonna be you're gonna be upfronted by like a goddamn Boy Scout? No, you're gonna go down there and you're gonna go see that boat.
Yeah. It's like knowing how it ended up and that he said all of these does make them kind of, especially this one, round 4, number 2. Like industry players. Yeah.
Just there's safety standards for a reason. Like you can have innovation while still adhering to safety. I mean, that's not a hot take. It's a very cold take, if anything.
This man's like preventative measure was the same as me saying, "No, my skin will tell me if the bullet is about to hurt me or not."
This guy's one of those people.
Yes, this guy's
one of those people that thinks anarchy is a legitimate form of government.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know why we need standards.
I want to move on from the political talk now.
You put an American flag behind him.
This guy. But wait, there's more.
Oh god.
The acrylic front viewport here was rated for 4,000 feet deep. The Titanic is 12,000 feet deep. That's less, obviously. This won't be a problem, right?
Appropriate imagery.
This is the front titanium cap being raised after it was salvaged. The cap is fine, clearly. It's still a whole piece, but the strap is going through the hole in the middle. That's where the viewport was.
Oh, it got sucked into it. Oh.
Yeah. Then it's also missing the entire rest of the hull. The fact that the carbon fiber hull is missing pretty much confirms that's what broke in one way or another. It's still under investigation, so you can't say for sure, but it really does not look good.
No.
So let's get into that. Oceangate says they bought their carbon fiber from Boeing.
Fuck! Shit!
This is like seeing a cameo you didn't expect.
Boeing originally bought the carbon fiber to use in their planes, but because they had manufacturing trouble, it expired. So they put it on sale for really cheap, and Oceangate said, yes, please.
When Boeing deems a material too unsafe to use, you know never to buy it.
Agent 47, your mission is 12,000 feet below the ocean.
Oh wait, isn't carbon fiber unsafe to use in pressure vessels? Well, not exactly. Okay, this is your third nerd warning. Carbon fiber is much, much stronger in tension than it is in compression. On planes, that's good because in a plane, when that's pressurized, you have more air in trying to force its way out. That means everything stretches and gets put in tension. In a sub, it's the other way around. Everything outside is trying to get in, so it tries to crush you. Now, planes can leverage what it was designed for, high tension and lightweight. Carbon fiber is much, much better this way than compression. Boeing and Airbus, by the way, who both use carbon fiber, both tested it very, very strongly to confirm this. That's why neither of these planes, the A350 or the 787, have had a fatal accident. And they've both been running for a total of, I think, something like 25 years now. Oceangate sub did the exact opposite. They put it in an untested, undesigned situation, and then chose not to test it again. They said the math is correct, therefore it must be correct. Don't test it, don't prove it, I don't want to know.
Was the math correct?
If you did the calculations, it would be correct, but because they didn't test it, they couldn't confirm that it was correct because you could have missed something. What if you forgot something? What if there was a design problem, which there was?
Also,
what if it was made badly, which it was?
I don't want to quote a famous movie here, but theory will only take you so far.
Exactly.
Everything comes back to
Their
Oppenheimer
math
with you.
Should have been correct. Their math, they got the first step correct. They did the math. The math was good. After you build it, you test it to make sure that it's good. Because, yeah, theory only takes you so far. Now, disregarding the incompetence in the designing, there were other problems also. Because it was half pre-prig and half wet wined, there were problems actually making it. There's a really big issue of something called porosity. That's where you get holes in your carbon fiber. Places where the epoxy doesn't reach and you get holes left behind, and this causes serious issues. Holes significantly weaken materials and they encourage cracks to form. And then there are ways to get rid of it. You can cure it in an autoclave. You take it at really high temperature and really low pressure. This means all the holes get pulled to the surface and they get pulled away. And now the holes are gone.
It's the same process as using like a vacuum chamber to cure resin.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Because carbon fiber is basically carbon fibers in resin. If you put it in a vacuum pump at high temperature, the holes and pores will go from the inside up to the surface where they'll eventually pop. And there they go. They're gone. But they decided, I don't want to do that. It's too expensive. So they put it in an oven. They said, I'm going to heat it to a little bit over boiling point, like 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and leave it there for a week. They thought this would be good enough. It wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
Why did they think that would work?
Oh, you know what's weird? I was watching a bunch of what's the show called? Forged in Fire.
Yeah, yeah.
Like catastrophic weapon failure clips compilations, and it's hilarious to me that the same reasons why those guys' swords broke is the same reason why the sub didn't work, right? Because they thought, oh, I'll just put it in the oven. I'll just do this.
I was also gonna say, when researching like the T-34 tank used by the Soviet Union, in tanks in World War II they used to heat treat the metal so that it would be more reliable. But the Soviet Union was notoriously known for like overheating its steel, leading it to eventually shatter on impact when attacked by anything.
Yeah. That's another material science problem. They made it so hot it actually became a brittle material. You remember way back when we had that steel graph that had like all the curves and everything?
Mm-hmm.
When by the time they were done, their steel graph would look like carbon fiber.
Oh no!
Damn.
It would be a straight line, so when it got hit by a tank shell, it would just obliterate. It would just shatter and they have a huge hole in it. That's not what you want in armor, and it's not what you want in a sub either. But yeah, they thought, hey, autoclaves make it hot. Why don't we make it hot? So they put it in an oven, left it there for a week. It didn't work. That's not acceptable. You can't do that. It's just as simple as that. It doesn't work like that. Like, yeah. Carbon fiber does not like water either. This is really a great situation, isn't it? Carbon fiber in the wrong way in water.
Wait a minute. What? What?
Carbon fiber does not like water because water can force its way into the matrix, the little epoxy. It can get in cracks, and then it can cause separation.
Deck 78.
Carbon fiber separate from the glue.
Deck 78 in the chat. Deck 78 said, "Bro did the tutorial and then tried to solo the final boss."
Pretty much, yeah.
Very true.
Water works its way in and causes the fibers to separate. You remember the pore thing from earlier that we just talked about? The more pores there are, the more water can get in. Pores means more water gets in, it causes more cracks. You can see here. That's how the little tiny pores, that's how they start out. It gets worse, and by the time you're down to here, you're basically dead. Look at this. Look. This is ridiculous.
Shaggy.
Exactly. Water intrusion causes cracks, and the fibers debond. This is not a good thing, especially when the water is being forced in at 5,000 psi. That's a lot of pressure. It's being pushed in. Don't do it properly. It forms a feedback loop. The bad surface does more water in. More water means more cracks. More cracks mean more water. And you got a big circle that nobody likes because it means you die. This is a problem. Just when you think you were done, there's one more to go.
Jesus.
Now, this is probably the most serious issue. Something called fatigue. Over time, materials lose their strength. Just like if you were at the gym and you maxed out on your first set, the next time you won't be able to lift as much. You've been fatigued. Carbon fiber fractures uniquely. Because it's a brittle material, that means it's either at full strength or broken and lifts nothing. And you can see here you have some full straight fibers and then some that are broken. This fiber can do nothing. It's dead weight. These ones here are fine. They're working. This one's broken. It does nothing. The sub had been taken on a few practice dives. And what they decided to do was, because some carbon fibers aren't up to the task, they said, we'll take it down. We'll let the weak ones break on purpose, so that the strong ones are left behind. And then on the real dive, this acoustic monitoring system we talked about before, it will hear those strong ones breaking and say, okay, we should go back now. And he also said that fiber snapping is normal. So snapping is not a failure, but it's also normal. What? Snapping is a sign of failure, so we'll listen for it. But snapping is also normal.
That's some strong copium and grade A delusion.
Had he gone as deep as the Titanic at any point before this, or do you know?
They had gone down I think, that far deep once or twice because they wanted to practice first.
So only once the entire sub is built does he still barely believe in testing it.
Oh yeah. So part of it is also they also had a lot. I haven't included most of the small tests, but if they wanted to say for pores, for example, if they wanted to check how many pores are in it, they could X-ray it. But he said no, it's too expensive, so he didn't.
Wasn't this guy a billionaire or was a billionaire?
I think he was. Yeah.
It's too expensive.
He's come full circle though, right? He says snapping is a sign of failure, right? Which admits that carbon fiber is kind of a failure, but then we'll still use carbon fiber to listen for the failure, but it's also normal. It's like, what?
And people paid like $250,000 for that, right? Like, just unreal.
You can just get a house outright for that. What the fuck?
You can get a house. You can buy a copy of Titanic on VHS and watch it.
You can get the biggest screen in the world and like project it. Like,
You know that story where I think in like World War One when they were trying to see like, oh, you know, how much of a plane can you lose before it's not functional, and like they would bring it back to the hangar and be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we'll just patch up the parts with the holes, and then someone comes by, no, you idiot, patch up the parts that weren't shot at.
Yeah. Patch up the
That's the
parts.
stuff you need.
Patch up the parts on the planes that didn't come back.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Like that's like the idea they have if they're just like bringing stuff down and just going like, oh look, see, it didn't crack. That means it's good.
This part works, but all the parts that didn't work that we can't see.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. They also didn't inspect the sub after it came up.
A lot of this really does, like, we say it ironically, but this really does sound like copium. Like, this man knew that the thing was unsafe, but he also knew that as soon as he tested for it, not a soul alive would want to be inside of it. So as long as he never tested it, it was Schrodinger's submarine. It either was or was going to kill people.
Yeah. And you have to remember, in the context of all of this, he's an engineer. He knows the things I'm saying. He's probably better at it. He has a master's degree and I don't yet. He knows this stuff.
So
and he still chose to do it.
But you're not delusional, so you got that going for you.
I guess, but I mean, come on.
This kind of feels like the engineering meme, like the missile knows where it is because it knows where it isn't.
Yeah. So carbon fiber, because of the way it works, you can think of it like if you and all your friends wanted to lift a car. You can't do that on your own, so you get a group of like 10 people and you lift it up. But it turns out some of those guys in your group are slackers. They don't actually lift anything, so they go off and leave. Now that means the rest of you have to lift more. But because you thought you had 10, now you only got 8. That means that everyone has to lift more. And now some people who maybe could have lifted it earlier, now they can't lift it because it's not enough. So they leave. And all of a sudden, by the time it's over, there's no one left. It's just you trying to lift a 2,000-pound car. It's not going to work. You get, yet again, a feedback loop. As fibers break, the rest need to carry more load. Then those break, and then the rest need to carry even more load. And just rinse and repeat until there's nothing left. This is a major issue, and it's almost certainly what led to it being destroyed. So, Yeah. On the first practice dive, all the weak ones snapped. And this is a direct quote from him. The first time it made lots of noise. The next time it was quiet.
Oh no.
Each time he went down, more fibers snapped, the load per fiber increased. And remember when I said it was built like a 2.5% safe, 2.5 times safety factor?
Right.
By the time he was on the last sub, that safety factor had been erased. all those fibers that added the safety had all snapped by now. So his safety factor was just gone.
So it could have been a single-use submarine, and then put it in like a museum or something.
Aren't single use. That's not the point of a submarine.
This one should have been.
Are you telling me this would have been more successful as an aircraft? Like...
Yes. If you put wings on it, it would have been better, unironically.
Wow.
By the time of the last fateful dive, there were just so many had broken. There was just not enough left to keep the surviving ones together. And then once it passed the point of no return, the last set of the strong ones broke, and that was it. At that point, you were just doomed. So, in the end, what happened? The carbon fiber was long and thin, meaning it probably buckled. It means the carbon fiber caved in, and it just put a hole in it, and all 5,000 pounds of pressure per square inch came in and flattened everybody. But, because we can never have nice things, carbon fiber buckles uniquely. We got something called snap buckling. That means individual layers of the carbon fiber peeled away from each other. And do you remember way back when I said it was half and half pre-preg wet wound with different layers? Because there were so many pores in the epoxy, that means the layers were not bonded very strongly. So they peeled away very early. And that also means that the failure started on the inside of the sub. So you and your 4 friends are sitting on the inside, and we'll slow down time for a second. 1 millisecond, you notice one of the walls starts to look a little bit droopy. Then the next millisecond, you see, oh yeah, that's actually bending inwards. That's not good. And then after that, it's just the end, because by the time that first layer peeled away, that's it. So your fate is sealed. No safety listening microphone bullshit could have saved you then. You're just dead.
I think I mentioned this in the group chat yesterday, but my understanding was that it happened so quickly that your brain couldn't even like react to it.
Yeah. So it was as copium as it could be, a peaceful death, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say peaceful. It didn't feel anything.
Yeah.
Because
they probably turned to dust.
Oh yeah, they were immediately pulverized.
This is one of those like these kinds of events are sort of like the small scale equivalent of something like the rumbling, where it's just such I'm just saying by comparison, you as a small sack of meat are so instantaneously overwhelmed by forces and pressures on a scale that you can't possibly defend against, that you're just like dusted off of the face of the earth casually.
You don't realize how scared I was for a second. You nearly got Cullen on Attack on
Titan. I know.
That's a presentation for another day.
That's the next trial. The next trial is the finale of Attack on Titan.
We'll see. And Tim, I don't know if I'm like leading, because you might have this in your presentation, but I'm assuming you and maybe others in the audience here like have seen visualization of like most likely what happened, right?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much what you can say is imagine like you taking a tin can, just crushing it in your hand sideways.
Mm-hmm. Sideways twice.
But then like if you blinked, you would have missed it essentially.
Well, so put it this way: the time from peeling to death was 20 milliseconds. The fastest possible reaction time with computer assistance is 50 milliseconds.
Yeah.
And that is as fast as is biologically possible. Less than half the time, they had already been instantaneously pulverized.
So, I gotta ask, did they talk about this disaster in your classes?
They actually did a little bit, funnily enough. We got talking about a materials course, coincidentally, and we talked about brittle fracture. And this was an example. Because there was no warning, as he said, yeah, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. Oh, I'm dead. There you go. So yeah, that that's probably fine for them. Now we return to our original promises from the beginning. Stockton's Breath death is unfortunate, but it's a good thing he's not alive to hurt more people. So I said at the beginning, I promised that this statement would be true for me, and now it's true for you as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
I appreciate
I was
it.
gonna say, as someone who has been on a submarine, those things are big, like surprisingly big for what you would expect, and require like a lot of room for things like pressurization, keeping the oxygen, well, the air in general, for people to survive for months and months and stuff. Like the fact that it was so small, and designed to go so deep, even though like military grade submarines would never go that deep. It's just insane that this guy had any sort of license to do this.
He didn't have a license. It was experimental. You don't need a license.
You don't need a license.
You don't need much when you have you have a blank check, right? Like, you kind of get
damn.
This man could have just bought a rated submarine.
I can't even paint my fucking house yellow in the UK, and but this guy gets to.
Yeah. So there is quite a whole lot that I actually didn't get to cover in this, because if I'm wrong with this, the presentation would be 10 hours long. But one of the things I didn't include was they have the option of, quote, rating the vessel, where they take it to a company and they say, yeah, this vessel is good to do this, that,
I heard
and the
about
other.
this.
He said it's pointless. So he didn't get it done.
Wait, you'll be familiar with this, Tim. You know how, like, for example, rockets have like the FAA to answer to when it comes to investigating stuff. Does like any sort of naval vessels like have some sort of FAA equivalent?
I don't know if there's an FAA. It could just be the Transport Administration.
Whoever rates boats,
Right,
I would assume,
but
would also
I
rate
don't-
consumer submarines.
Yeah, because what I mean is that like
they
that
do.
was-
Like there are companies like the American Society of Naval Engineers or something like that. I forget what it's exactly called. They rate vessels. It's an option. You can go to them and say, "Hey, I have this new ship. I want to see what it can do. I want to get insurance on it." And they'll say,
Yeah.
"Yeah, no problem. Give it here, and we'll test it out." He
Because
directly said that's a waste of time and money.
it's just surprising because like that would then mean that I could go out tomorrow, grab a bunch of wooden planks, build my own custom boat, and just sail out.
Ooh, I don't know why I didn't think of this until just now. That reminds me of there's a flat earther who offed themselves
The rocket?
because they built a
Yeah.
rocket because they wanted to be able to see the curvature of the Earth when you go past whatever sphere it is without like the cone or the spherical windows shaping the Earth to look like a sphere. They got like maybe less than 1,000 feet in the air and then promptly came back down.
Yeah.
Like, tragic story. It's a lot stupider than this one, right? 'Cause they
I
only
wouldn't
killed
say by
themselves,
much.
But it's a similar feat, right? Where we're applying actual science to, but not following certain rules or safety precautions or constraints or whatever.
I just feel like from someone who's like from the UK, it's just I can't imagine this happening without some guy going, "Do you have a license for that?" and then stopping it happening.
I mean,
It's just-
I will say this for the crazy flat earther. At the very least, no one was hurt but him. Like if you die to your own stupid invention, sure. This man was charging a fee to get into his coffin of death, and like literally shrugging off any criticism that it could be dangerous or irresponsible of him to be doing this.
Yep. So.
I don't know if you guys remember the controller that was
Yeah,
used.
actually about to
Sorry
say
about
that.
that. I was sorry about that. Chances are that's not a problem because you're gonna love this one. Surgery they do for like your eyes. Do you know what they use for that?
Is it Xbox?
They use an original Xbox controller.
We're
My-
gaming
Because
now.
those are very well made. They're meant. I mean, think about what are they meant to do? They're meant to be thrown around by angry gamers and not break. So the controller actually wasn't the issue. It was perfectly fine. Everything else was a problem.
It sounds a little dark, but it would have been quite funny if like the only thing that floated up to the top was
the
fucking
controller. I'm just imagining you mentioned surgery. I'm just imagining like the scene in Dead Space 2 with the eye needle, and that's a surgeon, but his controller has stick drift.
That's actually a good point. Yeah.
Look, well,
These are
all
wired.
I'll say about that controller is I actually own that exact one a few years ago, and I can absolutely attest that it was the most unreliable piece of shit controller I've ever owned in my entire life.
Oof.
You'll find this funny as well. So I didn't get to include this because it wasn't really how they built it. But when they put on those like propellers, they put one of them on backwards by accident. So when do you know what their solution to that was?
Take it off and put it on right.
What if you hold the controller sideways?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So they did, and they said, "Hey, look at that! If you hold it sideways, now it works."
So, all right, Tim, let me ask you this as an engineer, just consider this a mental challenge for you.
Okay.
I give you exactly the same materials, like from start though. Nothing's been assembled, but I give you the same 50-50 split of kinds of carbon fiber. I give you the same plexi or acrylic viewport. I give you the same titanium half shells. Could you construct the Titan in a rated way that it could have gone down to the Titanic wreckage multiple times?
Almost certainly not.
So the game was rigged from the start.
Yeah, but it's rigged because he didn't do it properly. Like, if you did everything properly, maybe. But that's quite a stretch. And, like, there was also some stuff that he just didn't have. Like, if he sealed the carbon fiber, maybe, because that would have removed the problem with water getting in. If they had reinforcement on the inside, it would have stopped the snap buckling. But there's so many small steps he didn't take that if you just had what he had, there's no way it would have worked properly.
If he had replaced the the carbon fiber constantly after each dive, would that have somewhat helped as well?
Yeah, if at that point you're basically just making a new submarine.
You just have
if it was a one-time use, it probably would have worked. But one-time use is just not feasible for a commercial submarine.
I'm just imagining it's like NASCAR. The sub comes up, they drill the two titanium eggshells off of it, they drill it onto a new body, and they put it back in the water.
What's that like philosophical ship where you?
Oh, the ship of Theseus.
The ship of Theseus.
Yeah, ship of Theseus. Like, is it the same ship?
The sub of Theseus.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you replace the carbon fiber completely, yeah, because you wouldn't have any of the water problems, you wouldn't have the creep, you wouldn't have much of the buckling issues. But it's just a new submarine. So, no, I say, if you only took what he had and what he did, you wouldn't be able to make a working, reusable, like, successful submarine out of it that goes to the Titanic. If you went to, like, 1,000 feet, no problem. Because 1,000 feet with that sub is fine. But 12,000 feet down is too far.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I mean, like I said,
It's
earlier,
a lesson.
Military
So actually,
grade.
if Vernier was here, he could have tested this. But if you become an engineer in Canada, you get something called the Iron Ring, which is the story is there was a bridge in Quebec that failed because an engineer didn't account for wind properly. So what they did was they took some of the steel from the bridges and made it into rings. So when you graduate, you get a ring and put it on your pinky of your writing hand. So when you write, that ring drags on the paper so you always know it's there and reminds you not to forget what you're doing. And if you mess up, people die.
Dang.
So, yeah, it's a reminder. Engineers, if you want to do something funny, do it on paper and leave it on paper. If you want to do something real, make sure you do it properly. That's the moral of the story.
Thank you, Tim.
It's pretty metal.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have been waiting for this presentation. It did not disappoint. Tim, I don't know what your black magic is, but you consistently, your presentations get like the most views.